imagine that? Can we like what if you know what, honey? I really don't want this thing. Can you just go ahead, pop a squat, open up, and get ready? It's like,
well, you're talking about physically putting him back in there?
oh yeah.
Oh,
What did you think about a 30-day return policy? I thought you could like just shove it back in the womb and
the
then
hospital.
nah, that wouldn't make sense.
I wouldn't do that to my wife.
Hold on, but that's what I'm saying. You can't just put it back in the hospital. Now you're putting the responsibility on somebody else. You got to put it back in the woman so it dissolves and goes away.
That's exactly what adoption is for. You can't put them in the woman and it goes away. First off, that is terrible advice. And for your poor girl who just went through, hopefully not days of labor, but sometimes days of labor. And now it's like, you know what, after 30 days, after you've already recovered, we don't want this one. We're going to put him back.
Ooh, I got an idea. Could you do a trade-in?
That's too off topic. Just give me your number. This conversation doesn't need to go on back.
Well, hold on. I guess there's a question for the audience.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question here.
Oh, there's a question here. I'm curious. How many of you would potentially shove your child back up in your wife, or or go ahead and give an exchange policy?
Or return.
Oh, yeah, or return. I'm so curious. Any of you guys out there, or women, whoever? I don't know. All right, and welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin, and...
You have like this different game show voice now. And I'm your other host, Shane.
Yes, that's
Let's
right.
Play.
That's the radio voice. It's about building enthusiasm for the listeners, man. Come on. Who's going to want to jump in here and be like, hi, everybody, I'm Vin. I'm your host. That's Shane.
I mean, I'm excited. I can't wait to win some money. What are we playing here?
We're playing Give Me Your Paperweight, because I want it.
No.
It's just a rock, man. Come on.
Technically, yeah.
So today we are here to discuss a few things. One is very near and dear to my heart, and it's not the thing Shane might be thinking. It has nothing to do with my daughter. It's actually about personal branding. The other thing we're going to talk about has to do with my daughter, and that's in reference to parenting.
Something very close to my heart, my family.
I mean, my daughter's a part of my heart, but I mean, come on, like personal branding is where it's at. It's a lot more fun. There's less poop. There's a lot less poop.
A lot less poop. Some poop.
Is there? Well, I guess people are talking shit sometimes, but let's dive into it. So recently, my man Shane here has experienced the love of a daughter. I've been experiencing the love of a daughter, but he reminded me of like the nastiness of it as well. He's just reminding me of things that I've buried deep into my subconscious mind and forgotten, which is the very early and extremely messy stages of being a parent. And it's actually become apparent that it might not be something I want to do again.
I feel like I'm a vet at this point because this is my second one. And it's crazy to say because my son's only 2.5 and my daughter just got born 2 weeks ago. But we both agree that the early stages of childhood is not the best. Not for the father, that is. And, let me elaborate here. My son was addicted to my wife, his mom. And as it should be, she fed him. They obviously the breastfeeding is very important. And I feel like you get a certain bond with that. But I couldn't even hold him without him crying for like the first 3 to 6 months of, when he was actually born. And it hurts, it hurts your soul. And it's like, dude, I don't know the return policy here in it was California at the time. I don't know if it's 30 days, but it's like, if you keep this up, I might trade you in for someone else. I'm just kidding. But now my daughter is like it's a different situation. She allows me to hold her. She's obviously more fond of my wife right now because of the same thing, the breastfeeding, the bondingness, but the skin to skin. She's 2 weeks old, and it's great. It's a completely different experience having a girl versus a boy. And I was telling Vin before this, it's like if you have another kid, I want you to have a boy so you can see the opposite side of the spectrum. Hopefully it's a better experience for the first 6 months that you have. But after that, I mean, my son is he's my boy. I mean, we're best friends. We're BFFs, you know? He does everything to win my approval, and like all he wants to do is get my attention. And like I have a rule where I'll put my phone down at like 6:30 at night, and I'll just keep it there. So that way my son gets my undivided attention. And it's great. You know, I'm the world to him. He's the world to me. And it's amazing. Kids are great.
I want to go back real quick to the part about putting a kid back. Could you imagine that? Can we like what if you know what, honey? I really don't want this thing. Can you just go ahead, pop a squat, open up, and get ready? It's like,
well, you're talking about physically putting him back in there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. What did you think about a 30-day return policy? I thought you could like just shove it back in the womb and
the hospital.
No, that wouldn't make sense.
I wouldn't do that to my wife. First off, if it wasn't a hospital, like, what would that even look like? You know, if that was actually a realistic thing, what do you think the percentage would be?
Well, hold on, but that's what I'm saying. You can't just put it back at the hospital. Now you're putting the responsibility on somebody else. You got to put it back in the woman so it dissolves and goes away.
That's exactly what adoption is for. You can't put them in the woman and it goes away. First off, that is terrible advice. And your poor girl who just went through, you know, hopefully not days of labor, but sometimes days of labor. And now it's like, you know what, after 30 days, after you've already recovered, we don't want this one. We're going to put him back.
Just to open back up, you know?
That is terrible.
It's like, get back in the stirrups.
That is the worst advice I've ever heard you say. Giving them back to the hospital and to the doctors for them to adopt the baby, sure. But I'm wondering what the percentage of that actually would be. I'm not done. Adoption?
I'm not done. I think it would help with population control. What if it was a possibility that you could put it back in the woman and it would just like absorb back in osmosis into her cells?
You know what the woman would say? I'm going to defend the woman. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I think this is what my wife would say. If there was a return policy that would happen, it would go up the husband.
I don't see how that would physically happen. We are not made to be that stretchy.
I mean, I'm not going to paint a picture, but you know, that's thankfully that we don't run into that situation. But
speak for yourself. I think that would be really entertaining. It's like, I don't want this thing.
Your poor girl. Poor girl.
What? If it came out, it just goes back in. It's not a big transition. In 30 days, how much does the kid really grow? Come on. You know the kid is still laying there.
A lot.
Come on. 30 days?
Dude, a week, sure. You're dealing with the black tar poops. Then it transitions to the green, yellow, slimy stuff.
Yeah.
But now, I'm speaking from literal experience from right now. My daughter's 2 weeks old. She's sleeping in 4-hour intervals. She's doing tummy time, which means that she gets her neck strong and she's laying on her stomach and not learning to just face plant like that. You're having more bonding moments. Like every week is so crucial. Now, obviously, there's people out there that aren't as loving, you know, Vin, I'm just kidding, within those 30 days. And my son was that prime example where it was like nonstop crying every time I held him. But you can't do the return policy, right? It's not a pair of pants.
I don't know, man. I look at it like my girl asked me, she's like, could you imagine our life without our daughter? And I'm like,
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I could. I see it. Traveling, a lot more money, a lot more time. Yeah, 100%. It actually sounds pretty okay.
Well, that's a different question than shoving them back up your girl who just gave birth.
Well, I mean,
now it becomes like an advice question. And I've actually had this conversation with 2 different people. They said, hey, Shane, give me your honest feedback about kids, because they were talking about having kids. And I said, look, I'll tell you, honestly, I would wake up, be selfish, wake up 9, 10 a.m. on the weekends and do nothing if I wanted to. Or I would watch football for, 8, 9 hours a day. Or we would just go and be spontaneous and go on a trip for a weekend. Like, if that's what you want to do and you want to be selfish and you want to put your needs before anybody else, then don't have kids.
Yep.
If you're mentally ready to give away all your selfishness to somebody else, and then you should have kids. However, the caveat, the plus side of this is that you are going to love this thing more than you will ever know. You'll love it more than your significant other. It's crazy. You love, I love my kids, more than my wife, which is crazy to say because my wife's my best friend, but it's an unconditional, joyful love that you can't compare to anything else.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and you're 100% spot on. My girl got she answered a question wrong when I said, hey, a robber comes in the house with a gun. He says, it's me or our daughter. Who do you pick? And she goes, well, you. I'm like, wrong. you better say goodbye to me because I'm going to die. Goes, what, you would pick me? I was like, are you kidding me? I would have told the robber, go ahead, do what you got to do. And I would say, I love you and just leave. Yes, I would 100% pick you. It's like, we have the daughter and the daughter has a lot more life to live than either of us. And so, right. Yeah, I mean, you'd be dead and I would miss you. It's like 100% of the time, if it was her or you, it'd always be her. So, yeah.
What about if it was between her, your daughter, and yourself?
Life's been kind of stressful. I'll just let the two of them handle it. And I have a life insurance policy. I think they'll be better off.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. It's like, you know what? I don't want to hear the burden with her family members or friends. And also, I'm somewhat of a nice guy. Take me out.
See, these are very different views. I'm like, I'm sitting here, maybe I should die. And you're just like, well, I want to be nice. I don't want I'm like, life's been stressful lately. I will volunteer. Whatever it is, take me.
I mean, you gotta justify situations here. If this was a best friend or me, I'd probably choose the best friend that he's gonna have to go. Like, it has to justify, right? If I didn't have any kids and I was just living myself on the bachelor pad, but my best friend had a family, it weighs on you a little bit more.
It's definitely interesting, right? I mean, so my time as a firefighter, I worked in one of the houses that were actually like one of the first houses to get to the World Trade Center during 9/11. So every day I was there, I would clean the memorial. Well, not every day. I think I'm being a little overestimating there. I would clean it probably at least once a month. Keep the memorial shiny, clean the glass, shine up the wood, all that good stuff with like some nice wood polish and all that. And the thought would occur to me. And my girlfriend had asked me the same thing. She said, if another situation like 9/11 happened, would you make sure like you come home? I was like, no. What do you mean? Like, I have a duty. I have a responsibility. In fact, the realization that I'm cleaning this memorial is the understanding that this could also be me, because ultimately everybody's life matters more than mine when you're a first responder. And that's what you ultimately signed up for. So that was an interesting question too, because she was already posing it like, hey, if we have a family and you stay as a firefighter, because that was the assumption at the time that I was going to keep doing this forever. And she's like, you stay as a firefighter, something like that happens, you're not going to go, right? And I'm like, of course I'm going to go. That's not a question you get to ask. Like, you don't sign up for the job and then say, oh wow, something's really happening. Instead of being a first responder, I'm going to be a last responder and go home. I'm like, no, I would go, and if I die, I die. Like, that's just how it is.
I feel like that's definitely easier said than done, and thankfully that, hopefully we'll never be into that position, either of us. But I also feel like, because I have friends that are in the military, that, the military trains your mindset to, serve your country and do your civic duty. And, but if family is in jeopardy and in danger and you have a choice to make, I feel like that's very, very difficult to not choose your immediate family over, doing your civic duty. I'm not saying that analogy was that, but I'm saying I'm thankful I don't have to make that type of decision, because that's probably one of the most difficult ones to,
I feel like you don't. I feel like you're not really thinking about it. Like, I could tell you is that, at least from my perspective, is like, you're going there thinking you have to do what you have to do. However, what we're constantly knowing as firefighters is that every day you go on tour could be your last, because you never know what could happen. I mean, it could be something simple. There have been cases or reportings of guys who died on the job for things that were supposed to be simple fires or simple procedures that just went sideways real quickly because the wind changed on them, or something collapsed that shouldn't have, or like, you don't think about that. So you have to always go to work and make sure, you know, and I think people do become less mindful of it, but you have to go to work and make sure, like, you tell your wife you love them, or your husband you love them before you go, because you never know. And it could be the simplest thing that gets out of control.
Yeah, I mean, me sitting here as a business owner, I could die of high blood pressure and heart attack and severe arthritis. So I tell my wife I love her every day. No, I'm
blood clots from sitting so long.
See, exactly. But on a serious note, I still stand behind, I applaud the people who serve our country, our military, our firefighters, our police force, people who put their lives in jeopardy every day, who have to go through that mental mindset that, this could be my last and I have to do what I have to do. But mainly they do that because it's a paycheck to provide for their family.
Oh,
yeah.
100%.
I'm just thankful that, we're both in a position, and you are as well, which is why that's not the reason why you got out of it, but you don't have to be into that physical danger anymore, or even mental, danger that this could be my last. Right. So
I miss it. It was fun, man. It was a really great experience. It was one of the best experiences ever. You've never seen it, actually. I've never shown you. I have like a little memorial to my firefighting career. I have four of my favorite tickets from my coolest firefighting runs that mean the most to me. I have the patch from my probationary period, the photo of me in the academy with my squad, and then I got to rip the name off of my bunker gear. So I got my name on there, and then I got my gloves that I wore in a bunch of fires and stuff. So something that I always like, just kind of get to look at, and a reminder of a part of my past life. But it's interesting. It was really exhilarating in its own ways, and it was really a great sense of duty, and it's fun, man. But honestly, to bring it back full circle, because I don't even remember how we got here, but the funniest part about it, I have the authority to compare it like this. I think I'd rather be a firefighter than deal with an early stage child. Like, if I have to be honest, you're still sleepless, you're still freaking exhausted, but at least as a firefighter, you know what you're going out for. When I would get called in the middle of the night and we would go on a run, we knew, hey, it's a medical run. Hey, it's a fire. Hey, it's this. Hey, it's that. Cool. And then when we deal with that, we come back and we go to bed. With a brand new kid, why are you crying? Do you want to eat? Changed? Burped? It's like, why won't you stop?
I would agree with you to an extent. Absolutely. Me having no, survival experiences as far as being a firefighter going into that sounds terrifying from my side. And I'd rather deal with the crying kid, but I also utilize my wife a lot. So it's like, baby's crying. Yeah. So I'm not going to say that I'm super dad or anything like that, but I feel like it's nice to have a partner who, can feed and who is very highly qualified dealing with infants. But I would agree that the first couple of months with a newborn baby is rough. That's why it gets a lot better.
I agree. Listen, man, here's I'll make this statement here and now and mean it every fiber of my damn being. Do I mean this statement? I'd rather go into a fire than have to deal with an early stage child. 100% of the time. I know what to expect in a fire. I'm okay with it. I really am. And honestly, it's a lot more exciting. Give me an early stage child. I would love to pass that thing off to anybody.
Well, you guys heard it. If there's any fires and Vin has a newborn, you might see him running over to it with a bucket of water, and
I'm itching. I'm itching, man.
Might help out. Vin Infante, past firefighter here. I'm here to help. Go home. What are you doing? No, I got a newborn. I'm here to help you guys.
Yeah. Hand me some damn bunker gear in the can. I'm ready.
Right. I will go in there right now if it means I don't have to go back home.
You know what? Screw the bunker gear. It's going to take too long to get on, and I got the newborn crying already. Just let me in.
Yeah. You don't need your hair, man. It's okay.
Yeah. Nothing. Oh, man. I love it. Well, I think we've definitely talked about the... Oh, wait. You know what we missed, actually? We can't move on just yet. We missed one really crucial part. We didn't get to what you think the statistics might be of people that will return the children. But, you know, to your point, not sticking it back in the woman. Okay, Shane. But more so of bringing them back to the hospital.
Yeah. Great. I'm the weird one for not wanting to shove my child back up my recovering wife. Well, see, I feel like this is... Let's just talk about the United States here, because I feel like it's kind of what we can only justify it to. I wonder what the adoption rate actually is, or, you know, whatever it actually calls is giving up, surrendering your baby, you know, once you don't want it after giving birth, right? I'm not talking about abortion like it's actually gone through. Outside of that, right, because we're not talking about that. We're talking about you've had the baby for 30 days. That's it, 30 days. What percentage of people in America would actually utilize the return policy and give your baby back to the hospital for them to adopt it? Let's just play out that scenario. So then, knowing all of those statistics, which is no statistics, but knowing all of that actual planned out, what would you say it is, and why?
Well, I'm actually looking at the statistics. And it says that there's almost 4 million children born each year, and only about 18,000 are voluntarily relinquished for adoption. So that's actually not that many. Okay.
It's a very, very small percentage, right? I think less than 1%, because 20,000 would be 1%, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, out of the, you know, hundreds of millions of people that we have here in the United States, how many people would you say would utilize the return policy?
Man, I'm gonna
18,000. Give them up. Surrender the baby. Outside of that 18,000,
right? I wonder what the record is. Like, why are there 18,000 kids that are giving up? Like, what's going on with that?
Well, I mean, that's a different conversation. But I would say, you know, accidents. They don't believe in abortion. You know, unfortunately, you have to deal with rape and things like that, and other scenarios that you just don't want the baby, but you don't believe in abortion.
Ooh, I got an idea. Could you do a trade-in?
That's too off topic. Just give me your number. This conversation doesn't need to go on back.
Well, hold on, because if I bring it back, but maybe I just want a different one. Like, I didn't like this one. Like, mine was really rashy in the first like month, and she was.
But it's your baby.
Yeah, but what if I get one that isn't rashy and sleeps through?
There's no exchange policy over here.
Why not? Wait a second. You can bring your baby back. You can bring your baby back. You just can't get a new one.
So you're actually contemplating this?
I'm just saying, is it an option?
So in America, outside of those 18,000, because I think it would be less, I say 5,000 people, a very small fraction of a percent, would actually say, you know what, we were not ready for this. And out of those 5,000, I would say 85 to 90% of them are between the age ranges of 15 to 25.
I wonder if I could have convinced my girl after the first month to return our kid. Like
would you want to?
Well, I don't know. I'm just
obviously not now, but at that time, were you just?
Well, it was super stressful, right? Like, the kid wasn't planned; she was an accident, and then we had her, and then we decided to like do it because, like, what you know, we decided to step up.
Go.
We probably should, and then it's like, hey, you know, this first month has been rough as hell, and we were both working at the time, and it was not easy, and she was exhausted because my girl was commuting like almost an hour and a half each way, and then working like a 10-hour day. She had like 13-14-hour days. I think at that point I probably could have convinced her to give up the kid. I think 100% could just no.
All right, I'm saving this podcast, and I'm going to be showing your daughter when she's old enough to be like, okay, Dad and I talked about this 15 years ago. I just want you to rewatch this one.
We'll play it at a Sweet 16.
Yeah, they were contemplating either returning you or shoving you back up, Mom. So it was either going to happen on one of those.
Your dad was all for it.
You're ridiculous. I love it.
Okay. So, I guess there's a question for the audience.
Yeah. I don't think there's a question here.
Oh, there's a question here. Let us know in comments or in emails or DMs or anything after you listen to this episode. I want to know. Do you have an option? No. I need to know. You know what? Shane doesn't have to answer any of these responses. I will personally answer all of them. We will not delegate it to any of our team members or Shane. I will personally, because I'm curious, how many of you would potentially shove your child back up in your wife, or or go ahead and give an exchange policy?
Or return.
Oh, yeah, or return. I'm so curious. Any of you guys out there, or women, whoever? I don't know. Oh, man, yeah. Hey, wait, if you're a woman and you're listening to this, would you willingly have a child shoved back in you?
Oh, God.
If you didn't want to have the kid. If you don't want to have the kid.
This podcast is turning into something terrible.
Well, we're moving on. I had to end it with a question. It's a call to action for the listeners.
That's the worst call of action I've ever heard. You probably lost listeners from this.
Okay, so, oh man, I should have thought about this beforehand, because let's go into personal branding now.
Yeah, this is Vin's all about personal branding here, guys.
And if
you're a poster child for some politician.
And if you check on my Instagram, you'll see I'm a very loving father.
Yes, he actually is. He's just on one today.
It's an interesting thing, because it'll never happen. So it's like, well, what if it could?
Well, the what if game. It's a dangerous game.
Oh, man. I'm going to be thinking about this. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to text Shane at 3 a.m. and be like, but what if?
I'm muting my phone.
Oh, man. All right. So, personal branding. Love it, need it, gotta have it, or don't want it at all. What do we think about branding? I am of the inkling and the ideology that branding is the most important you could think of, or the most important thing you could do. Doesn't necessarily have to be personal, but I think personal branding is actually the wave of the future. But I see tons of value in branding in its entirety, and we have tons to talk about. So, Shane, what's your thoughts?
As a whole, our society right now is pretty much led by and trusted by influencers and, things of that nature. So personal branding and, showing videos, and it's essentially demonstrating the know, like, and trust factor. So when people see you and they agree with you, they'll essentially do anything at that point. So that's where society is at right now. Personal branding is very big. It really depends on if you want to utilize it. I personally am not really doing any personal branding. I don't have, a lot of followers. I still have, an immediate group of friends and families and people who also follow me as well, but it's very small. But I don't pay much attention to it because I'm not at that stage in my life where I want to put more emphasis on there. And the reason why is because I have a 2-year-old and I have a 2-week-old daughter. And when you want to spend that time, energy, and money on growing your personal brand, which that's what it's going to take, is time, energy, and money, that's all you really got to do. I mean, you have to continuing nonstop It's, ganja, 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 right? They just ganja, manja, 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 manja. They just want more. That's all it is. Whatever you gave yesterday, it doesn't matter. I'm waiting for tomorrow, the next day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day. So when you follow these influencers, it's nonstop kind of stuff like that. Now I want to transition it before I get to Vin, because I know Vin has a lot of things to say about the personal branding. Corporate branding is very, very important. When I had my marketing company, I couldn't afford branding, and I would try to actually acquire clients and not practice what I preach and tell them that they need marketing, they need an image, they need to show their face on Google and Facebook and build out this know, like, trust factor when I didn't have it myself. And I took that from the VA group, and now I spend a great deal of money on Facebook, on Google, on LinkedIn. You type in my website and you'll see tons and tons of reviews, Glassdoor reviews from my employees. You'll see hundreds of testimonial videos on my website. Branding is imperative for successful companies. Do you think Coca-Cola needs to spend, millions and billions of dollars on branding their image? Everybody knows Coca-Cola. My 2-year-old son knows about Coca-Cola. They don't need to spend a dime on it. But what do? They want to be the powerhouse. They need to continue pushing Coke down people's throats. So when somebody gets thirsty and they have that spark in their image, or the spark in their mind, they want to drink Coke. It's the same thing with McDonald's. So corporate branding, when you're successful and you can afford it, is imperative. You need to have marketing dollars behind that. So those are my viewpoints, Vin. What about you for branding?
Well, I love me some branding because I've come to find that branding, I believe, is the wave of the future. I think that people aren't going to associate with companies as much in the future. I think even as we see these giant powerhouses like Coca-Cola, etc., I think that they're going to start adopting faces. I really do. Like nowadays, I don't necessarily hear as much about Apple, and I could be wrong, right? And maybe it depends on what you're listening to, but I hear more about Tim Cook. I hear more about the speeches or the things that he's doing or the way that he's interacting with people or going to events and things like that, more than I hear like, oh, Apple's doing this, this, this. Now I'm hearing more like Tim Cook. So I think that there could be something to be said about how companies will also start looking to shift in the branding efforts. Like, not to say that they're going to stop building the company brand, but I believe that the faces create more connection because now, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, of now we're moving into the era of connection. We're moving into people want to feel connected. People want to know, especially as income is, at least right now, a little bit harder to come by. People want to know, why should they give you their harder to come by dollars? Why should they feel connected to you as a brand or a service or product? Why do they want to invest with you? And a lot of the times we've already seen this, right, throughout history, is that marketing always plays on the emotional standpoints. When you see Coca-Cola, especially during the holidays, what do you think of? Polar bears. Why do you think of that? Because they've decided that they want to show you this really cute, cuddly polar bear family enjoying a Coke, getting into some silly antics around the holidays. And we eat that up. We love it, right? Who doesn't love the Coca-Cola polar bears? I would love to meet one person. And
I actually don't think the polar bears are even there anymore. I think now they're Coca-Cola and it's like Santa driving like an awesome red Corvette and like drinking a Coke. Like, I think that was like the last couple of years. I think the polar bears are like 90s, early 2000s, but that's exactly what I think of with Coke in the winter.
Oh, me too. I mean, well, it's great branding, great marketing, and it evokes a feeling. And so we're starting to see, one, because it evokes a feeling, it's a lot more powerful to evoke a feeling with an actual person than a large entity. And so I do believe, I could be wrong, right? This is just my prediction. I believe we're going to start seeing corporations adopt faces, and they're going to push that more. And listen, we can revisit this podcast and we'll see, maybe 10, 20 years from now, people will be like, oh shit, Vin and Fonte said that on the 1% podcast 10, 20 years ago. Now every corporation's got a face that we associate it with. Or not. Or people will just be like, Vin was wrong. and he will always be wrong because it's not happening. But I am pretty confident in the fact that I do believe branding is hitting another level, because even if you don't have a big corporation, you still need a level of branding. You need to be known for something. You need to be standing out as unique or different or better in some way, shape, or form. You need to show people how what you do is a more exciting thing to invest with. And when you look at your personal brand specifically, the cool thing about it is that it can transcend what you're actually doing. I love when I'm talking to clients about branding, I love talking about The Rock, because that man is the epiphany of what you can do if you have a powerful personal brand. The man had started in wrestling, then he went into acting, then he went into Under Armour, then he went into tequila, then he's doing something else. But it's because his reputation wound up preceding him because of his personal brand. And so I love that personal brand can traverse industries, where if you're looking to really figure out your branding, you start with one thing, you get wildly known for it, niched in, and then you can go and do anything. Like Shane, once Shane is ready to, do his exit and get out of the VA group, and he builds his personal brand, he's going to be known as the guy who did a edit that out. Shane's going to be known as the guy that did the XXX edit, and all of a sudden people would hire him for consulting across brands. They're not going to care if they're not running a VA company and, oh, well, Shane, we're not a VA company. No, they won't care, because Shane has built a personal brand around what he could do as a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And so your brand, or that brand identity, is going to be so freaking key and powerful, especially if you want to do more things in your life. So I'm a big fan of it. And one thing to end off my giant ramble here is Shane's point of content. It is a lot of work, but here's the thing. It basically produces itself. Realistically, like, you're going to go to events, you're going to do things, even if you're not the speaker at the event. I've seen people bring microphones and have like their friend or their child follow them around with a camera just while they're talking to people in audiences, and film that as content. And so it's really like, yeah, it sounds like a lot of work, but if you think about it, it's really just capturing your everyday moments in life. And you're already going through life. The only difference is right now you're not recording it. Because I used to think like, wow, this is going to be a daunting task to create content. And it can be, but if you have a few dollars, a lot of dollars, it's a lot easier to just have someone follow you with a camera. I mean, Gary Vee did it, right? Like, Gary Vee had an intern named D-Rock who just followed him everywhere he went and just asked him questions all day, every day. And Gary would just talk. They'd be in the car talking. They'd be at the airport talking. They'd be at the company talking. They'd be walking to lunch talking. Tons of content. And then they just repost it on every platform. So it starts becoming a lifestyle to a high degree, but you're already doing it. Now it's just a matter of recording it. And the question is, do you want to showcase your lifestyle? I don't know.
That's the other thing too, is your life now just becomes public. Like mine, I don't talk about those things day in and day out, right? My normal conversations are outside of business or with my wife and then friends, and we just kind of, shoot the shit. But I do agree with you, but that is definitely, you're opening your life to the public, and you have to be ready for something like that.
Oh yeah.
If you're trying to do it and you don't want that, stop now. And if you do want that and you want to be better at it, you got to continue doing it. Exactly like Vin said, become the Truman Show, right? Get a whole bunch of cameras on you and just live your life.
I would also say too, for personal branding, I don't think it's as easy as a lot of people think. I believe you have to really have something of merit. And when I talk something of merit, this is bringing us back to the concept of this podcast. Is like, you need to be good at what you're doing, right? Because personal brands a lot of people don't excel in their personal brands. Like, if you think about it, right? How many people are out there putting out content? A lot. But some people make it and some people don't. Why? Well, It comes down to the fact that you are recognized. And maybe some people get there because of connections. Well, I actually know some people get there because of connections, but the bigger reality is that if you're not one of those people, you have to figure out a lot about what is your message, why is your message important. And I'm not just talking about my industry of like personal development. What about comedy? Like if you're a comedian, what is your message as a comedian? Like, how do you do comedy? What's your style? Why would people find you funny? Why would people rather watch you than Kevin Hart or, somebody else out there? And it's really just about asking to that concept again and again and again of what is the 1%? How do you step into the 1%? How do you have a personal brand that becomes so widely known that you are in the upper echelons, the top tiers, and people see you as an authority? Because that's ultimately what will grow your brand. If I put out 10,000 pieces of crappy content, it's not going to do anything for my brand, right? Like, you're not going to explode because your content sucks and nobody's watching it. So it challenges you, if you're building a brand, it challenges you to level up and say, what the heck do I have to do to really be known as a 1% authority so that people are consuming and watching my content, that it has a viral factor, that people are interested in my life, and that people are interested in not just your life, but who are you and what are you doing and why should they care? And so there's so much that goes into branding. I'm personally fascinated by it. I love it. I think it's exciting and it's so cool to learn and so curious. And even you get into the data and the analytics of it. Like when I put out videos, it's like, oh, wow, this is a 50-second video, but the average viewer stopped watching after 20 seconds. What the heck did they even get in the 20 seconds? Now I'm going back. I'm like, what was so good in the 20 seconds that they watched that they gave it a like or a share, but they didn't watch for the whole 60? So it really challenges you a lot when you get into personal branding to just continue to evolve yourself and your mindset around how do you provide value. And that's what a brand is. It's a declaration saying that whatever I'm promising, service, product, entertainment, doesn't matter. Whatever I'm promising, there is a value add in here. So how do you deliver that? And I'm wondering, I mean, Shane, you have built a great brand, even though it may not be a personal one, right? VA, the VA group. I mean, you have a raving fan like me who tells everybody. Just today, I was talking to somebody who's like, does anybody know of any competent VAs? I'm like, I got the best VAs for you, man. How the heck? How do you do it? How do you what's the sauce in branding for you?
What's the sauce in branding? I feel it's a loaded gun question right there, because we constantly evolve and change. But I honestly think that if you do the best that you can do and you provide the best service that you can provide, which I believe that we do, which is why we have low churn rate and great testimonials and reviews, it kind of speaks for itself. I think the best branding you can ever get is glowing testimonials of other people saying how great that you are. I don't think you can provide any other piece of content specifically for a business that's going to do better than an actual client saying, this is why you should go with the VA group, and this is why, and I'm living client proof of this. So that's what I believe.
I agree. There's one thing that I've always been curious about. What do you think is the tipping point for testimonials? Like, I think of it as if you have 1 to 5 testimonials, they could just be your friends you paid or asked them to shoot you a video. At what point do you think it starts being a tipping point where people don't question if they're your friends anymore?
I don't know if there's a number, but I know when you go onto my website, you have to continue scrolling.
Yeah.
So, and I think the same thing, for reviews, but I'm an actual, I don't think, I was talking about a couple of other coaches and public speakers, and we even know one that I won't name by name here because I don't want to put them on blast, but they don't have a lot of reviews. They don't have a lot of testimonials, which is crazy to me because I know how many people they actually help. I just don't think that they either care or that they just don't grab it. That's the difference. Mm-hmm. When a client is happy, and I have, managers that oversee the VAs in the campaign, I train the managers to capture that happiness with a testimonial. And there's nothing better than that. So I think it's just overall all-encompassing, The biggest thing is to capture happiness the moment it hits. Like when a client says, Vin, you've changed my life because of this, or Vin, I love how things are going. It would be great if you can give me a quick review. It would help a lot. Right then and there. And that's exactly what we do. And I think that's kind of like one of the pinnacles of success is because of our reviews and our Glassdoor reviews. If you look at our Glassdoor reviews, we have over 120, 130 Glassdoor reviews. And those are all employees, and that's people that have been there for 3-4 years, 2 years, 6 months, 2 months. Like they're all saying great things. Like we have 4.8 stars on there.
Wow.
So capturing happiness once it strikes.
That's interesting. So maybe one of the marks of branding is the validation from the reviews, which is a pretty simple concept, right? But I think a lot of people don't capitalize on that.
They don't,
and I think,
which is nuts to me. They'll take an email, they'll take the verbal criticism saying like, Vin, this is great. This has really helped me or whatever it may be. And they say, oh, I'm glad you love it. That's amazing. Let's continue down this avenue. Which is crazy to me. It's like, I'm so glad that you like it. Would you leave me a glowing review? It'd really help out my business. And when you transition it like that, doesn't matter how successful you are, how many clients you have, how many, whatever it is. If you say it like that, you're helping me, they will do it hand over fist.
It's a fair point. What about, how do you, what if you have a client you asked for a testimonial from to help, hey, like this would be massively helpful. I appreciate it. And they say yes, and then they don't deliver.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make. You don't ask for testimonials, right off the bat. You capture happiness. So that's the very crucial point. If you ask for something, that's homework. It's work that they actually have to do when they may not want to, or you may not get the best review. It's capturing happiness. So that's why I've trained my managers that way. Because we ask them, we'll do a week review. How's the VAs going? Oh, the VAs are doing okay. We still need to work on this. You don't ask for anything. Oh my God, I love my VA. She's doing wonderful. Oh, that's so great to hear. It would be amazing if you would give us a testimonial about your virtual assistant and the success you've had with us already. Oh, absolutely. Oh, that'd be so thankful. Thank you so much. It means a lot to us.
Good point.
Capturing happiness.
I like it. Capturing happiness. All right, everybody, you heard it here. One of the best ways to build your brand authority is to not ask for a testimonial, but to capture happiness. It's probably one of the biggest nuggets you all could take from this, because I think reviews, even for myself, reviews get lost. I have had a lot of happy clients, or at least they said they were happy. And I'd say, hey, listen, I really appreciate that. Especially at the end of our work. They'd be like, Vin, it's been phenomenal. I've noticed there's so much change in me, in my life, and this and that. And like, hey, I'm going to let you know, like, we're done here. I'm going to discontinue the package. Like, I think we're good. I'm like, cool, awesome. Well, listen, if you really valued this, like, would you mind giving me a quick testimonial? I would deeply appreciate it. It helps out my business. They barely ever get back to me. And to Shane's point, it's not because they're not happy. And I know that for a fact. Like, there are some clients that I'm like, maybe we could have done better. I don't know, but there's definitely a lot of clients that leave and I'm like, man, we crushed it. And I'm like, they will probably give me the best review I've ever gotten. And then it's like, if only the review could get here, man.
And if you would have captured it towards, the beginning or the middle of how everything is going compared to the tail end when they don't need you anymore, it would have been a glowing review. And it would have not been, I worked with Vin for X. It's, I'm working with Vin, right? So when you see my testimonials that are all real from real people that are saying, I love my virtual assistant. She does a great job for me. I've had my VA for 2 years. I've had my VA for 6 months. It's continual. Like, how big does that sound comparatively to, I worked with Vin for a year. He helped me out with some problems. He's a great guy. I'd recommend him to anybody. Good review. I'm working with Vin. I've been working with him for 6 months. He's transitioned my lifestyle completely. I can't say enough good things about him. I can't wait for, the upcoming months and to transition my life even more.
Yeah.
Right. It's good to great.
That's great, man. I think that's really powerful. That's going to help out a lot of people, because you're right. A lot of people leave reviews on the table, and what you're missing is that reviews are brand authority. You want to build a powerful brand, have so many damn reviews that people don't even want to bother scrolling. because that's also going to really enhance your like, know, and trust factor. It's like, all right, well, it's got hundreds of people. I'm not even going to bother to watch all these. I'm just going to see what it's all about, because clearly if they all like it, there might be something here to like. So probably one of your number one tips today for developing any brand, be it personal or professional, corporate, whatever. Get reviews, get your like, know, and trust factor, differentiate, create content. Is there anything I missed in that?
I will give one more piece to this
Yeah.
before we end this. The biggest review you can ever get is a video testimonial. A video testimonial where they're showing face, you could see emotion, is the best thing you're ever going to get. And there's no such thing as asking for too much. You ask for the video testimonial first, always, saying, thank you so much. This is an amazing video testimonial. Would you mind if I put it on my website? They're obviously going to say no. Thank you. It means the world to me. Hey, I spend a lot of money in advertising on Google. Would you mind also writing me a quick Google review? That's it. Facebook review, Google review, Yelp review, doesn't matter. It's fine. You're capturing happiness. They're in love with you. They're going to do that for you. You ask it one at a time. You ask for the biggest one first. Once you have that, thank them tremendously. This means the world. And you go to the next one.
I love it. That's great. Great piece of advice, man. I think that's really going to help people's brand. I think that overall people should definitely look into, even if you're not sure what you'll do with it, right? Just start building your own personal brand. And it doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to go heavy, hire content teams, this and that. Just know your brand. Know what you represent. Know what your expertise are. Know what you help, who you help, how you help, what you like to help with. And just make that evident and apparent on your socials. And even if you never do anything with it, at least you're established as something. And then you could always step into it later. So build your brand, get your reviews, get moving on showing up powerfully in this world, and figure out if you want your kid or not. And that's our podcast for today, everybody. Thanks for joining us again on the 1%. I'm Vin. That's my man, Shane. Oh, you want to say it? Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much for allowing me. I'm Shane.
That's Shane, everybody. And we're the 1%. So come back next time. We'll have a really great topic for you. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Stay in touch.
Bye, guys.